Okay, I'm going to call this January 18th, 2023 Mashpee Public Schools School Committee Business Meeting to order. The time is 5:31, and our first order of business is the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, thank you. I'd also like to state that the Mashpee Public Schools recognize and honor the many generations of Wampanoag people who have lived and been sustained in this territory for more than 10,000 years. Okay, so let's look at the agenda for tonight. We are ratifying tonight's business agenda. Do we have any changes or anything we need to move around?
So Dalia is not able to attend tonight?
Okay. I saw Roxanne just came in, so she's here. And any other changes? No? All right, I'll take a motion to ratify.
I'll make a motion to ratify the agenda as with the change to item 6 for the meeting.
Great. A motion by Kathy. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Second by Matt. Any discussion? All right, Brian, how do you vote?
Yes.
Brian, Matt?
Yes.
Don?
Yes.
Kathy?
Yes.
I vote yes as well. All right, do we have any public comment?
Not at this time.
Thank you. All right, so I think we're on to Jamie and our Coombs presentation.
Hi guys. So for those of you who don't know me, my name is Jamie Vincent and I'm the new STEM teacher this year. Oh,
It's good.
my name is Jamie Vincent and I am the new STEM teacher at Coombs this year. And honestly, I'm a little nervous, so I'm just going to pretend you're all between the ages of 4 and 8. So that we can pretend like it's a little lesson about what we're learning in STEM. So jumping right in. Let me put it up so you guys can see it big. A couple of things that I do in STEM with the students is engineering. So students work together in small groups on different engineering challenges. Here's some pictures, and I'll go through a couple of them. I won't take too much time, but they have opportunities to design their model, test their model, and then redesign and retest as class time permits. And this type of group work really fosters like collaboration, communication, which I think STEM lends itself perfectly to anyway. So we do a lot of hands-on, a lot of group work in STEM. And it promotes the sharing of materials, ideas, what it means to effectively work with your peers. So I'll point out this one here. This second grade group here had to design a shelter that would withstand heavy winds. So we talked first about hurricanes and storms. And you can see it's kind of on this pizza plate. And they used Model Magic clay. There's a figurine inside there. And they used popsicle sticks and the index cards to cover him. And then they had to pick up from the base, bring it over to the testing table, and then basically not have it be blown away by my fan. So that's how we tested their models. Then they could take them back, talk about what worked, what didn't, and then redesign and retest it as many times as 45 minutes will let you do that. So, all right. Okay, so here are some more engineering activities. So this was pre-K students over here, and I have a little video I'll put on because it's cute. So we read a story about a parrot named Echo, and he's kind of like a sassy parrot. So Echo does not want to be sold in the pet store. He wants to stay there, and he ends up getting adopted out. And so they had to try to design a cage that would keep him in his cage so that he wouldn't go back to the pet store. So with the preschool students, again, they were working together in groups. This is the same group here. They were given blocks because the medium was just an easier choice for them. And were told, prior to the start of the video, they were told that they could turn the blocks in whatever way they needed to in order to make a successful cage, and that a successful cage just needed 4 walls, a roof, and then like a space for the bird to be able to look out, like a cage, like a window. So let's play this here. Actually, I think I have to get out of that. There we go.
What do you need
Sorry.
to have? Oh, no, that's okay, though. Is there different ways to use the block?
So you see they tried it the tall, skinny way, and it wasn't working. There's the parrot flying. They're trying them laying on their side. Now the parrot's in the cage.
Parrot inside. Remember, if you're going to build it that way, what do you need to have? What does it need to have, Lucy? Can you tell me? No, what has to go above him? A roof? And can he see? How can he see? What else do you need if you build it this way? How can he see? Oh, so you're making what? What would that be called? Oh, window.
All right, so, whoops, sorry. So you can see they kind of have to work through it by, first having your design fail. But, there is no failing other than failing forward in STEM. So even nobody's designs are ever perfect. No scientist's designs are ever perfect. They're always, always changing. So we talk about how we can always do better no matter how perfect we think it looks. So here are second grade students. They had a similar challenge, but it was with different and more challenging materials to work with. So they had popsicle sticks, straws. I love that model magic clay because it sticks to everything even when you don't want it to. And then the plate, and then you can see little echo in there. And they had to design their cage in a similar way so that, the bird cannot get out. And they made that tent structure. I saw some students use the popsicle sticks, and then on the top they made other popsicle sticks like slats and then gently put that on. So it's really neat to see all of their different takes on it. And honestly, sometimes I'm thinking it's going to go one way and it doesn't. It goes a completely different way, which is really cool. So whoops.
Oh, no, that's okay, though. Is there a different way to use the block?
Let's watch it again because it's cute. All right. I'm going to do that. There. All right, so now talking about some science. So we have pumpkin discovery and then some ballooning spiders here. So these two are discovering the inside and the outside of pumpkins and gourds. They learned a lot of different language, and you think you know a lot about pumpkins, but I had no idea what fibrous strands were and what they were used for in a pumpkin until I actually was doing research about pumpkins. So for those of you who want to know what fibrous strands are, they are the parts that connect the pulp of the pumpkin, which you're all probably thinking is the gooey stuff you pull out. Like, did you guys think that? Because that's what I thought. It's not. Those are the fibrous strands. The pulp is actually this part of the pumpkin here, and the fibrous strands connect from there to the seeds, and that's how the seeds get their nutrients. So a lot of the kids after when we talked about it, and I said, what's something new you've learned about pumpkins that you didn't know before? And it was, I didn't know what fibrous strands were, and that I always thought that was just the pulp, the gooey, yucky stuff. And then over here, they are measuring the circumference of pumpkins and gourds on the table. Everybody has a little sheet that they can record their answers on for, you know, how many ribs their pumpkin has, the height, how much it weighs, and then just taking a closer look. So, and then this one was really fun. So I had to get creative because that week it rained every single day, I think. And we were making ballooning spiders that were made out of coffee filters, and I wanted to drop them. So I'm on the second story floor, and there's a fire escape. I wanted them to be able to drop them from there after also dropping them from their height in the classroom, and then talking about the difference of how, you know, which height worked better to drop them from. But because it was so wet and I didn't want them to ruin their spiders, we ended up going, so this is from the second story right outside my STEM classroom into the cafeteria. And so they got a big kick out of that. When we were having lunch, rather than ballooning spiders falling on all of the kids eating, although that might have been fun, don't you think? We moved to the front hallway where the staircase goes up on either side. So we got really creative that week to be able to do the lesson. And they ended up actually having, I think, more fun with it just because they were like, ooh, this is really cool. We get to do this in other parts of the school and do things that might be a little bit naughty, like throw things over the edge of the over the edge of the balcony. So, so we discovered and discussed why dropping them from that greater height worked better than dropping them, you know, from their height in the classroom. So, let's see. All right, and then I like to incorporate a little bit of art into our STEM for some STEAM. So for this one, students had to actually mix the watercolor palettes and try to get the correct shade of the lizards and animals that I gave them to camouflage them. And we discussed about animal adaptations and how camouflage can protect, you know, those animals in their habitat. And what I like about incorporating art is for a student who's like very artsy, like they're just artistically inclined, it helps show me what they know. So for a student who may not want to talk about it or articulate or show in a different way, or maybe they're shy in a group, it's a good way for me to say, oh, you really did get that. And like you can see, this student tested a lot of shades of brown before they came up with the one that matched that lizard. And they did a pretty good job. So, okay, so now to our creature features here. We have two terrapin turtles like you do here. Do we have them at the middle high school as well?
I think they do in Miss Friedman's room, yes.
Okay, so you guys are probably, you know, well-versed in the program. But for those of you who don't know, it's the Head Start program through the Barnstable Clean Water Coalition. These turtles are not taken from the wild per se. They are eggs that have been hatched on the trails and footpaths of Sandy Neck by the marsh. So these are eggs that would be stepped on and possibly run over, trampled. So they take those eggs and they rear them until they hatch, and then they distribute them to schools who have the permit for it. We're lucky enough to have that. And then we rear them the rest of the way until spring or summer. So, and then they're released at some point back in the same spot. So, all right, and then last one I think is pretty cool. I'm going to explain what you're looking at here. Okay, so these are our class pets here. You're welcome to hold, touch. Listen, the children do. So these are some things that have happened with these guys. They're Madagascar hissing cockroaches. And these are some really cool things that have happened in class. This happened in Miss Tessassini's first grade class. This one actually had just molted. So that's why it's bright white. You can see the molt is hanging from its abdomen down here. And here's just another view. And until you guys actually get to hold one and touch one like you're going to promise me you're going to do, this is the color that they are. So you can see that they're pretty dark. And they will shed their exoskeleton as their nymphs. So this was a baby. He's about 2 inches long. They get to be about 2 or 3 inches. So he might have been, in his final molt here. But they change their color. Their exoskeletons harden and darken up very quickly. So like this happened on 2:30 on a Monday afternoon. And by Tuesday morning when I came in, he was dark. Because you don't really want to be a soft, tender, bright, white, juicy snack for too long, right? So the kids were just like, they thought it was the coolest thing. And then it happened one other time, and I brought the container out in the hallway when kids were coming in, and I was like, stop and look at this is cool. Some thought it was a lot cooler than others. I don't know that everybody thinks it's quite as cool as I do. But really, really, I think it's just really cool that they see things that they otherwise normally would never experience. All right, and let me explain what you're looking at here. So this is a female Madagascar hissing cockroach. So they have egg cases called oothicas, and it's protruding from her abdomen. She's waiting, or it has just been fertilized. So what's really cool is most insects and other cockroaches will drop their oothicas on the ground when they're done, after it's been fertilized, right? So, and then the babies hatch, right? Like praying mantises do this. They attach it to like grasses and leaves and sticks, and then they hatch and they're on their own. But what she'll do is retain it in her body. So she brings it back inside her body, and after that gestation period is over, she will give birth to about 50 nymphs, 50 babies, but it looks like a live birth because it's inside her abdomen. So it's really cool. It's they don't know why Madagascar hissing cockroaches do that, but they do. So, any questions about Madagascar hissing cockroaches?
Does that mean we have 50 of these now?
So we have, I don't know exactly how many we have, but there are definitely easily 24 in here, and we have had babies. So I got these from my friend at the USDA. She's a scientist there that works with invasive species, and they're good cleaner crews. So she's like, oh, I'll give you some roaches, right? And I'm thinking 2 or 3, same sex. And she decided to give me 24, and she even threw a slug in there. We have a slug that lays eggs in there too. Yeah. So, yeah, I told her that if we end up with like 50 babies, I'll tell the kids they're going back to the lab to be sorted out before they come back. Yeah.
It's the train station.
So,
I've been on the school committee. This is my 6th year, and I have not had to hold a cockroach yet. So I think I'm gonna.
are you gonna?
I think I'm gonna hold off on that.
No, wait. Do you want to pet one? Somebody, please.
Actually,
no. Okay. Is anybody? I want to give the newer members a chance to hold.
it's part of the initiation.
Deb has pet one, but I will tell you,
I will pet one.
Brian has
I will
not.
take it for the team.
So,
Oh, Brian, you're gonna do it?
Yeah. All right. Good.
Oh.
Thanks, Brian. I mean, lucky.
All right. Now they're not fast. Don't worry. But listen, yeah. All right, they're not quick. See, they're
I
pretty.
mean, they looked big on the slide.
You want to hold one?
They did not look big on
Yeah,
this.
sure. No, you can do whatever you want.
If I ever see one of those.
You won't unless you go to Madagascar. Dude, you hear him hiss?
Madagascar.
They're sassy. Yeah, you gotta go to Madagascar.
Well, they
They
jump.
don't. Good question. They do not bite. They eat vegetation mostly, a little bit of protein, some soaked dog kibble or fish flakes. Does it for them.
And you will be taking those back to school.
Yeah. Do you want some for your?
Nice
Yeah.
job, Mr. Whedon.
Yeah.
Yay.
So they don't. Oh, I'm trying to get one. If I can hold one up for you guys.
Disgusting.
We have like
No. They're a
Last
little
chance,
elusive.
Rodney. No?
They're really
Okay.
easy to take care of.
We've been working really hard to keep cockroaches out of the schools.
Well, that's what the net is
Yeah.
for. Keeps the babies in there.
No, I think it's great. Thank you so much, Jamie.
Anyone have any questions for Jamie? Thank you so much for coming.
Yeah.
You're very welcome.
Hey, listen, I'm not as nervous anymore. I can go on.
Can you just take the slide down though?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Does that freak you out?
A little bit.
Disgusting.
Not a little, a lot.
I was wondering if there would be any squeamish.
Yes, there are.
Does anyone need the clear touch or can?
Yes, we
Yes,
do.
you can leave it, you can log yourself out,
Okay.
right?
Yeah.
All right.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms.
Thank you so much.
No problem. All right.
All right, thank you.
It all goes downhill from here.
All right, so next I think I'm going to turn it over to Patty for the Mass Hire Artworks contest winner.
And I'm going to invite
Okay.
Tiffany up to share.
Oh, the mic's right.
Oh,
Hello, everyone. My name is Sam Fonseca, and I am the Program and Data Manager for the Mass Hire Cape and Islands Workforce Board. I am thrilled to be here today to present an award and prize to our Artworks Logo Contest winner. Artworks is a program that's open to students grades 9 through 12, and it provides them with the opportunity to mentor alongside a local artist and provides them with a hands-on learning experience in the creative economy. So every year we offer the Artworks Logo Contest. It's open to all high school students. It provides them with the opportunity to present a logo that represents the program. This year, we were proud to choose Addison Wood, a sophomore from Mashpee High School, as our winner. The committee all felt that she did a great job representing the art of mentorship, but also showing that Cape Cod vibe. I will show you Addison's lovely, fantastic logo here. So she was able to capture the larger crab as the mentor for the program, and the little crab is supposed to be the student. Yes, please. So Addison's logo will be presented on all Artworks resources and social media posts throughout December of 2023. And with that, I would like to call up Addison to present her with her award and prize. Keep an eye out on all of our social media posts for your beautiful logo.
Oh,
Yeah.
And her family.
Yes.
Yeah, we won, another student won last year.
and
Deb Trianos
is here as an influential person, and I would presume in Addison's life, which is her art.
So Deb does a great job of collaborating with the workforce board to provide this assignment for students so that they have the opportunity to win, which we're super grateful to Deb for that.
Thank you.
One of our kids won last year.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
saying.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
So Addison, can I ask you a question? So what made you think of the crabs? Why did you?
I don't know, I was just trying to go with like a Cape Cod theme, and I was thinking about the beach, and I was just kind of like surfing the internet, and I found the crabs.
Yeah.
Love it.
Cool. Do you spend a lot of time on the beach?
Yeah, in the summer.
Yeah, that's great. I love the designs that you put on the shell. Yeah, that's sort of the floral pattern that overlaid on the crabs. That's really cool. Yeah. Well,
Like a
good work.
subdued.
Yeah.
Subdued.
Good work.
Very nice.
We're coming for it next year too.
Yeah. Mashpee is the high school to beat.
Yes,
exactly. And Sam and her team, Kara Galvin, is the executive director of Mass Hire and the Workforce Board, and they do incredible work. I said this last year, I'll say it every chance I get to thank them. They provide us with funding, with support, with resources for employment opportunities for our kids, for workforce training, for just a gazillion things. It's not ginormous, but it's a gazillion. And Sam, nobody works harder than Sam and Kara. So I just want to publicly say thank you for all that you do for me.
Thanks. Wonderful. Thanks for coming, Deb, too. Appreciate it. Okay, next we have Roxanne Mills Brown, I believe, from the Mashpee Wampanoag Tribal Education Department.
Thank you.
It's been a little while.
Yeah. Happy New Year.
Yeah, Happy New Year to everybody. So we begin another year with even greater expectations and more resolve. Today, actually, Patty Hope and I met with the Indigenous Peoples Law Clinic out of Suffolk University. And it seems like eons prior to COVID, we began this document surrounding attendance intervention for Native students. And so today we actually came together as a full team to discuss and vet a draft of an attendance intervention plan between the tribe and Mashpee School District, as well as, you've probably heard this 100 times, a truancy cooperative agreement. And so prior to today, I've been meeting with Suffolk Law, and then we've been passing paperwork back and forth between me and Patty and Hope. And today we decided, let's have the team together, let's vet this all out in a common session. So this was the first of maybe a couple more at least sessions in trying to articulate an agreement whereby the internal piece isn't so much the attendance intervention, because we've been doing some of this anyway with the different school buildings. But the truancy agreement is, of course, will be a legal type of document and incorporated into our juvenile ordinance. So it will be a tribal document as well. But we're looking just effectively to be able to, an interesting kind of parallel came up today with how the state deals with ICWA cases. And when the district identifies a truant case and it's referred to the DA or to the courts, we'll be notified if it's a tribal youth. And we hope and expect that this cooperative agreement will allow the tribe to see the case before tribal court. And we do have an ordinance, full faith and credit, to where we accept the judgments of the towns and the districts, and they will accept ours as well. So we're looking forward to this because it's been a long time coming, and I'm appreciative of your time this morning, Hope and Patty, in moving that forward. The Education Department has met with Collaborative Education Services, and they're, I think, one of 12, if I'm not mistaken, collaboratives in the state. And they do a little bit more of the professional development, unlike Cape Cod Collaborative, who may host or be the conduit or transportation and so forth. And some of the things that we are working on partnering them on is special education to get us, I guess, up to speed. Some of us come with a little bit of a background, others don't, but we need to have everybody in our department have some modicum of understanding there. Also, kind of not just data analysis, but what types of data would be most beneficial for our department to be collecting and identifying. And it may sound like an easy task, but we've yet to sit down and be able to just do that and consistently collect it and identify it and bring it forward. So there's another component too that we agreed they would assist us with, which escapes my mind right now. So some of the things that have been happening kind of quietly is Cameron's established somewhat of a presence in the Indian Education Room at the middle high school. I think he says it's a 3-day per class cycle, whatever that means. And that's really been beneficial for establishing relationships with the students. Just getting some camaraderie and understanding of who we are as a department and some of the services that we offer, which is a lot of the post-secondary and even opportunities that are presented to our high school kids. And I'll just give you a couple of examples. And recruitment, publicizing has always been an issue for us, the communications piece. We have had scholarships offered to us if we can find the students for summer programs. There's MS Square, which occurs at Andover Academy during the summer. It's minority science and math, college and career readiness. It's all a mix in there, and they live there for the summer, and they mix with about 500 different students from around the world participate. And it's a great opportunity to create friendships, understanding, but also to visit colleges, some of the most elite colleges in the country, actually. And I do have to say my daughter attended there for 2 years when we lived in Arizona and established some long-time friendships there as well. Sea Education out of Woods Hole, they have opportunities for high school students to go out on the boat and learn all about, the maritime pieces, a focus on oceanography, the marine environment, which you would think our kids would jump at the opportunities for that. And we haven't given up by any means. They also offer undergraduate and GAP programs. So I'm hoping by Cameron being here and us being in some of the other districts like Falmouth and hope soon to be born, that we can really convey some of this stuff at a different level rather than throwing it at them and, just sending it out, that we can really get kind of personal and intimate with our relationships there. We offer internships through National Seashore. That's a summer program. They offer housing, they offer a stipend, and the tribe can actually supplement that stipend. The Native Land Conservancy offers an internship. There's an abundance of internships that are offered to high school or just recent high school graduates as well. And again, Alyssa Harris, I think, took advantage of this one summer, and a young lady from Aquinnah together at the seashore, and really made a big impression, not only on the park, but on the students as well. So under the American Rescue Plan, American Indian Resilience and Education Grant, we've established a partnership with Bourne School as well. Bourne School District, and we're awaiting responses from Wareham and Sandwich. We actually hosted these districts at the office, and that seemed to really, again, communication and establishing those relationships made a big impression, I think, on both entities. Darius is at Quashnet on Mondays and Thursdays doing lunch bunch, mentoring, tutoring. If he misses a Monday, and there is school on Monday, the kids will chew him out. And they're like, what's going on? Where are you? And so because there's so many Mondays with either half a day or holiday, he began the Thursday visits as well. But it's really made a difference, not especially with the boys, with the young girls too, to have him there. And it's quite a valuable piece. In a similar program, I think Talia's looking to work with Casey Coombs as well to establish or reestablish the lunch bunches there. We've recruited, I'm going to say, about 6 students. Hopefully all will be able to attend. For the Close-Up United South and Eastern Tribes Leadership Conference, that takes place the week of February 3rd through 9th in DC. And that really will allow our kids to, from what I understand, it's quite heavy in really having to do your due diligence and participation. Explore current issues facing Native Americans, rights and responsibilities of dual citizenship, and the relationship between tribal nations and the federal government. Hugely important pieces for our youth, which, of course, we consider future leaders. I think tomorrow, Talia and Darius meet with Mary Kate at Quashnet. They're working on the plan to construct the Wampanoag exhibit. We called it the Wampanoag Representative Structure. Right there, actually, in the kind of garden area there. And so that's going to come to fruition, and it's really kind of exciting because I think what that does is it educates all students, but it also provides a sense of pride for Native students as well. We've scheduled after-school program entitled Tribal Boys, Cultural Enrichment After-School Program. And that'll begin on January 31st here at Quashnet School. And that will be led by Darius, and hopefully he'll have assistance there. It's open to boys in grades 4 through 6, and we may try to incorporate grades 7 through 8 once this initial program gets underway. But there's a huge need for mentorship and cultural education, not just especially among the boys, because we are going to offer one for young girls as well. But our kids are extremely thirsty or hungry for these cultural pieces. And the boys are really looking to get outside and field trip to some of our cultural and historical sites. The monthly workshop series is going well. We need to become a little more professional with our interaction with Zoom. But the content has been it just gets you right inside. The content has really been well done by the presenters. Last night we had the wampum workshop with Hartman Dietz, and that's Paula Peters' nephew. He did an extremely good job, had a little bit of technical issues, but just the content is so powerful. And we had about 100 registrants, and we had, I think, 54 on the workshop. So we're trying to get these so that, and it may be we turn them into webinars, just so that they can become more professional and less technically loaded, I guess you might say. The next workshop is in February. I should have had the date of that. It's going to be facilitated by Drew Lopenzina. He's a professor of English literature at Old Dominion University, and he teaches about the intersections of early American and Native American literature. It's entitled Letter from Barnstable Jail, William Apis and the 1833 Plea for Mashpee Sovereignty. And that happened here in Mashpee. And that's going to be a big one. So and are you getting those pieces of
I
information?
did see the wampum one.
Yeah, I think
There's
we
someone
put it in
sending them out from your department. I
Yeah,
think.
Sassaman
Yeah.
sending those out. Yeah. And then we understand that there's a need for curriculum resources, and just do want to offer that we have those resources, and we're always willing to come in, even if it's after school, or if it's a half day, or if a teacher needs us to come in and provide those resources, or kind of follow up on the presentation of those. And never do we, this is something that we're really working on with all of our staff, is never will we criticize the materials or the level of knowledge, because we all went through the same education systems. We all came out with the same information unless we were privy culturally and otherwise. And our job is to educate. So I think that's it.
Thank you, Roxanne.
Yeah, thank you.
And
Have
any
a good
questions
one.
before we let Roxanne go?
I just want to highlight the close-up trip. I know that we've been working with the education department with sending some students. And USET is the United South and Eastern Tribes, so that's all the tribes that are federally recognized within that region. And they bring their youth as well. So our youth will actually interact and share a room with a youth from another tribe. And it's kind of like our model when we send our kids to the DC trip. The good thing about this is that the tribe covers the cost, and sometimes we know that the burden on some of our tribal students. So I think it would be great, Roxanne, if after the youth came back, maybe if we could do a presentation here at a school committee meeting. I know that we have, presentations that we do at general membership meetings, but I think it'd be great for the community, at large to see, what exactly it is that our youth are doing, and also reporting back on that.
Yeah.
I'm also excited to hear about the We2 with Principal O'Brien and the Quashnet School. We've been talking about that for quite some time, and Darius is definitely the guy to get that done. And also the Tribal Boys group. We did have a Tribal Girls group back in the day that was led by Winona Hendricks, or Auntie Noni, a tribal elder that passed away recently. But they did a lot of crafts, regalia making, cooking, camping, fishing, etc. So I'm really excited about all the programs, and thank you for the collaboration.
Thank you.
Great, thanks, Roxanne. Okay, one more presentation tonight. We asked invited Train Commercial to come in. Is it
Morgan Paris.
Price?
Paris.
Paris. Morgan Paris. Nice to meet you. Again, I guess we met virtually. Yeah. And so Patty and I had talked about, Ashley is Ashley still here? Oh, okay. Ashley had some experience with this in her previous district, and so she sort of brought her knowledge and awareness of this to us, and I thought it was important for the committee to just have some background. We invited our town manager to hear firsthand as well, but obviously this is a project that is really being led by DPW in partnership with the schools, so just bear that in mind. Thank you, Maureen.
Thank you so much, Madam Chair, and thank you to the school committee for having me here today. Today, we're going to talk about specifically performance contracting and the process of performance contracting in Massachusetts, which is where you use one procurement method to do a whole slew of upgrades in your school buildings. So it's very flexible, it's streamlined, and we're going to talk about why that may be an option for you. Maybe we'll talk about it. All right, just a little bit about me, for those that don't know me. My name is Morgan Paris, as you mentioned previously. I do have a BS in mechanical engineering from Clemson University, and I'm currently pursuing my MBA in social impact at Boston University. So really passionate about sustainability and the environment, and I'm currently working as an energy services account executive with Train on helping customers, specifically the K-12 community, upgrade their school buildings and make them more efficient and more sustainable. So structured the presentation today really as a why, how, and what. So why would you enter into this style of procurement? How do you enter into this style of procurement, and what does that process look like? And then what would a project through performance contracting look like? So the typical existing challenges that a school district or community would have when entering into a performance contracting project would be a growing list of capital needs, and that can be anything from building infrastructure needs to deep HVAC equipment needs or controls needs. In addition to that, now that we are kind of post-pandemic, those tie into what a post-pandemic community or classroom would look like. So, fulfilling the CDC and ASHRAE recommendations for indoor air quality, fiscally using responsibly those funds for ESSER and ARPA funding in a timely manner and as efficiently as possible. And then lastly, if you have a desire to electrify or decarb, that is something that communities are choosing to do through this type of process. But just as a whole, Train's goal is to provide classrooms that are sunny and 70. We want the perfect classroom for you, whether that be the right temperature, humidity, comfort, acoustics, lighting, and that is what you can accomplish through a project like this. So providing safe, comfortable, and efficient learning environments. So something else that is current in the environment today is that the marketplace is flooded with money, with incentive dollars, with grants, with federally funded money, and that is all available to you, and it's available for the taking. And so if that's available right now, now is really the time. We've never seen money like this before, specifically with heat pump incentives, so electrification incentives is a type of HVAC equipment. Those incentives used to be somewhere around $30 or $50 a ton. Right now, they're somewhere between $2,500 to $4,500 a ton for making these upgrades. And if we know Mass Save It All, they typically start high and they go down over time. So they are at the highest they will most likely ever be, and they're just going to continue to drop. So that is why now is the time. And then if any ESSER or ARPA funds are still available, we know we have some spend down dates in September of 2023 coming up, and I'll talk about the timeline for this type of process and how that might fit. So again, I mentioned that sunny and 70 classroom. So we want in our classrooms the right ventilation, the right humidity, and the right temperature. And so those are just three big topics that we really think our students and our teachers need and deserve. And to tie that all in together, if you want to upgrade your HVAC systems, if you need to, now is the time because of all that money that's flooding the marketplace that I mentioned earlier. Why wouldn't we want to get the most out of our money? So we're on to the how, and the how is performance contracting. It is an alternative procurement method for construction projects. It is enabled through MGL Chapter 25A 11I, and it is where you select one firm to provide the design, the engineering, the construction, the installation, and you can choose to select service as well. So it's the one-stop shop for a contracting project versus having kind of a piecemeal approach with different procurements. Project can be funded independent of the capital budget, and unique to Massachusetts, a lot of states have performance contracting legislation, but unique to Massachusetts is that projects can be funded in whole or in part by energy savings. So at the heart of performance contracting, the goal is for it to be funded by energy savings, but it doesn't need to be. So you can have only a small portion of energy savings and still do an HVAC upgrade project. So this I pulled actually off the DOER's website, and it compares a typical construction project, plan and spec, to what a performance contracting project would look like. So here's the true cost of a project when we're talking typical construction. So you'd hire a design firm, or you would do an initial study, maybe take 1 to 3 months. You'd get some budgets back. You'd get a high level look at how your buildings are doing and what you need to upgrade. You would then hire a design engineer. That would take another maybe 3 to 9 months for them to actually design the solution. You would take that out to bid. You'd have to select your procurement method. That's another 1 to 2 months. And then you would finally enter into construction, which would be a separate mechanical contractor. Would be other contractors involved as well. And at the end of the process, in that commissioning stage, you might have some pointing of fingers, right? It's this person, no, it was the engineer, no, it's the contractor, they installed it wrong, they designed it wrong. And at the end of the day, you're left with the results of that construction project. On top of that, you're going lowest bid. So this just shows you the timeline, one, how long it can take, and how it's just really not a streamlined approach for you. This is going to take at least a year, maybe 2, over a year actually, probably today, 2 years to 3 years to actually go from start to finish. Versus if you were to do a performance contracting project, it includes all of those components under one, with the only exception being financing. That's just a little bit separate. We will help you in securing financing if that is what you elect to do, but we do not provide financing ourselves. But it would include the study, the design, the procurement, the construction, and the commissioning, and then guaranteed energy savings for up to 20 years. So there's a long-term partnership involved in these projects, and whoever you select as your energy services company is not going to walk away, right? They're in it for the long haul. They're in it for the 20 years. I know when we enter into performance contracts, I'm in a long-term partnership and I care about the result of the project. So if something goes wrong, it's on me. And it's one point of contact and one purchasing contract. So this is how it would look, just single source accountability. Like I said, one person, one contact. We would hire any mechanical contractors, electrical contractors, roofing. We would guarantee the energy savings for up to 20 years, and we would provide ongoing maintenance to whichever extent Mashpee selects. It could be none. It could be all of the buildings. It's up to you. We would help secure any grants and rebates that are available to you, for example, those heat pump rebates with our engineering team, and then we would help you secure any additional funding. But at the end of the day, we would be working for you. So this is an example of what that streamlined process can look like. So I used January start as an example. So if you were to decide to move forward with a request for qualifications, you would issue that, let's say, in the month of January. It's a model document. It's on the DOER's website. All you have to input is some contact information, some timelines of when you want to receive responses by, and then you would have a couple weeks to receive responses and then pick your energy services company. So you would select an energy services company, let's say in about February. It will give you a couple weeks to make your selection. And then after you've selected your ESCO, you would execute a detailed audit agreement, which is technically called an investment grade audit, but it is really an energy audit and a building infrastructure audit. So we would evaluate all of your buildings, mechanical, building infrastructure, controls, and pretty much anything you can think of that might relate to energy or infrastructure that's related to your buildings. We would produce a menu list of items. You can use this to develop a capital improvements plan. I know that's coming up for you all, so this is kind of a tool for you to see what is available to you. So that menu list of items we'll give to you, that'll include fixed firm pricing. It'll include any incentives and energy savings associated with those projects. And then we'll also have a payback for you to evaluate. You would then select, and that audit typically takes about a couple months, depending on if we have a timeline or some immediate needs. We can work maybe in parallel, doing the longer audit on one end and then streamlined and a speed approach for another. We've had people that have come to us for failing boilers, and we've been able to replace that very quickly while also working on those kind of longer term audit upgrades. Once you select your scope of improvements, then we would move forward with a contract proposal with the scope, fixed firm, price, and guarantee. Let's say that happens in about July. You could then execute the agreements and proceed as long as financing is secured. And then we would start to implement those facility upgrades starting in December. And that is when the construction period would start. So depending on what lead times for equipment looks like, maybe it's about a year, year and a half. But as you can see, that streamlined approach is much quicker than the typical construction project approach. And then after that, following the installation, we would be guaranteeing energy savings from 2024 all the way up to 20 years is the max for one of these contracts. So again, like I said, we have to be in your buildings. We have to be measuring and verifying savings. So we can't just walk away and leave your buildings. We have to stay in them, have to make sure it works properly. So like I said, these are infrastructure renewal type projects. So that really boils down into 3 categories. That is clean renewable energy systems. We've done biomass boilers. We've done solar. Geothermal heat pumps we will evaluate as well. Energy conservation measures is the biggest bucket. That's number 2. And that is HVAC equipment and building automation system upgrades. So VRF, heat pumps, things that take a more electrification-based approach. New boiler plants, dedicated hot water, VFDs, transformers, lighting. We've done pool covers. We've done exhaust hood cleaners. I'm trying to think of any other crazy items that we've done, but we've done a couple interesting things in some of these projects. So don't rule anything out if you have any ideas. And then lastly, items that are typically handled as capital improvements, so windows, roofs. And I don't think those are needs of yours. From some conversations I've had, it seems as though energy conservation measures and typical HVAC upgrades are probably the focus. But I just wanted you to see what the options are. So a little bit about New England Train. We do cover 4 states. This is just our area. We have a whole region that includes New York, New Jersey, Vermont. But we are 4 states. We're about $250 million business. We have over 200 account managers, energy engineers, building automation systems engineers who are constantly in buildings every single day, working in schools, working in apartments, working in universities. So they're very skilled. Our technicians are the smartest people I've ever met in my whole life. And so we trust them with being in school buildings as well, as you can imagine. They do this all the time. They do this every day. And so they're very skilled and knowledgeable. And especially in public entities in Massachusetts, we have a very wide presence. We've done over $130 million locally in projects with just our New England team. So we just moved forward with an energy management services agreement with the town of Bourne. So we're doing upgrades to their HVAC systems in their high school, some lighting projects, building automation systems, a large scope of improvements. So we're really excited to move forward and work with them, and just noted that those are nearby to you. So figured I would mention it. Another reason that people select Train, aside from our extensive track record, is our unique Train cost advantage. So I don't know how many people know of Train, maybe from your house, from a couple buildings you've been around, but Train does manufacture both HVAC equipment and controls. So being one of the only energy services companies that actually manufactures HVAC equipment means that we have a unique cost advantage when it comes to passing through our equipment costs. So when you work directly with the manufacturer, you cut out that middleman and you actually create cost savings for yourself. So back to what I was talking about how performance contracting can have a streamlined approach to allow you to get more for your money. Working with the manufacturer helps you to do that. And then lastly, our solid local track record. In addition to the pure dollar value that we've done and the amount of communities that we work with, we do have a 100% success rate across the state of Massachusetts, meaning that we've never missed a guarantee. So if we tell you and we write in our contract that we will save you $100,000 a year, in that measurement and verification report that you will get annually, we've always made that guarantee. So that just shows you that we stand by our word and we follow through on our promises when it comes to measuring and verifying those savings. And I think on average, we actually exceed our savings by about 13%. So that means additional money flowing through to you. So this is just this last slide I put in here to summarize my message, which is that, again, if you are looking for these components of an HVAC system that promotes good classroom learning, you are going to need heating, proper ventilation and controls, a clean and healthy and safe and comfortable environment for those students. So when you need all of that, and there is these incentives in the marketplace, now is the time. So I wanted to put in a couple examples too, just to show you some customers and projects that we've done. The City of Lynn, community north of Boston, entered into a performance contract with Train because they had very, very extensive infrastructure renewal needs. They have well over 40 buildings, schools and town buildings, and they needed to save time, they needed to save money, and they wanted to make the most out of what they had. So they took advantage of those energy savings guaranteed by Train and the sustained performance through maintenance and entered into an energy services agreement. So that agreement was started in 2012. We have since then done over $28 million worth of work in their buildings, both town and school buildings, and we have guaranteed energy savings of over $500,000 a year that show up in a measurement and verification report. That's over 12% reduction in utility spend. I think it's actually much higher than that. And they do have more opportunities, and we're still working with them on doing future work. So that is a good customer. Like I said, I think I said over 40, but it's close to 40. Lots of schools, as you can see, and a good number of city buildings as well. And they took a multi-phased approach, which is pretty common with our customers. So you don't have to do everything at once. You can take bite-sized pieces of your buildings. So they actually had desperate needs with their boilers. They had some boilers fail. So that first phase of the project was just doing boilers. It was $262,000. First step done. Phase 2, we took another bite size, did 12 schools and 2 city buildings for almost $4 million. But that was a comprehensive scope of improvements, right? Lighting, energy conservation measures, HVAC systems. Phase 3, 7 schools, boilers, HVAC, energy management systems. Phase 4, HVAC systems to 7 more schools. Phase 6, sorry, I got to read my Roman numerals, was exclusively indoor air quality upgrades, and that was using ESSER funding. So they actually got completely new ventilation systems. They had these shafts, and it was just not giving proper air. So this really upgraded their ventilation systems and got them the clean air that they needed. And then lastly, more HVAC in four more buildings, 3 new boiler plants, and more energy management systems. So $28 million, a really good partnership that we have with them. And as you can see, they did take advantage of that.
Can I ask you one question, or just, so when you did your audit of Lynn,
Yes.
you produced the document that had all the different projects on it, and so that locked in that price, and they just picked year-to-year projects from your audit?
So
No?
we definitely reserve the right over 10 years to update our pricing.
That's right. That's a long time.
But we do provide pricing up front, and then over the years, as you elect to maybe pick more, we would update that pricing as you decide to add more scope.
Okay.
So Freetown Lakeville Regional School District, do you want to come help me, Ashley?
You're on it, I'll add commentary over here.
Okay, perfect.
Ashley has experience with this.
So
model.
again, immediate need for a boiler replacement here. This is actually clearly a common need among schools, is that they come to us initially with, they just need a boiler right away. So we do that as phase 1, and then also attack some other things as well. So it was years of deferred maintenance. They wanted to take advantage of those guaranteed energy savings by Trane, and then also the maintenance component. They didn't want to let that get out of hand again. So putting that through this contract and having that be a strong component of a contract with Trane was something that was really important to them. That project commenced in 2020, so a little more recent. It was about $6 million in infrastructure renewal, and they have close to $328,000 of savings guaranteed by Trane per year. So that equates to about $8.8 million in savings over the life of the project, so over 20 years. And that's at about a 3% utility escalation.
So one of the things about Freetown Lakeville was I started in 2018 there, and I was immediately approached by Trane to have these conversations that we're having today, and it took me until the latter part of 2019 to say yes, because this seemed too good to be true. And it took Morgan, as well as her counterpart Leo, who's no longer with us, to really work this process with me to make me fully understand it and feel comfortable to enter into these agreements. She's going to finish up her presentation, but there are some caveats to Mashpee that are a little bit different than some of these schools that we've seen, but we can explain that as we go.
Mm-hmm. So 5 schools with Freetown Lakeville, so a little bit more sized appropriately to Mashpee, and then energy conservation measures, again, wide-ranging, boiler plants, rooftops, energy management systems. Again, the swimming pool cover, we can get creative.
And that was the whole part with Trane, is that they give you a list of items that you can choose from, and we needed boilers, so we went out and we got costs of boilers, and we knew that we were not in a position to afford that outright without a few years. know more of that if we decide to move forward with the audit of Train.
Mhm.
Train is also just one company that does this. I've had a partnership with them before, so they're easy to come out, and they're very gracious to come out and do these presentations for us. But as Morgan talked about, we go out for an RFQ, a request for qualifications, and all of the ESCOs that wanted to submit their qualifications could, and we would review them. So Train, even though they've done all this legwork and provided you the information, might not be the energy company we go with,
Mhm.
because there are various companies throughout the state.
Mhm.
So that's just something to know.
Yep, absolutely. We're happy to respond though.
Great. So Kathy and I have kind of sat through some of this before, so mostly I just wanted to give Ryan, Matt, and Dawn a chance to ask questions or clarify anything.
Could you just go over the audit process and how that works for the members who might not have sat in on some of the preliminary talks?
Yes, absolutely. So in the audit process, you will be assigned energy engineers and project developers. And those energy engineers and project developers will walk through all of your school buildings and town buildings, if you elect to include town buildings as well. And they will evaluate, they'll take pictures, they'll write notes, they'll look at your control systems, they'll see how your buildings are operating, they'll hear complaints from teachers and principals, and they'll really try and listen to what's going on in your buildings, where your problem areas are, and what your goals are for your schools. Then they will work together on finding options for you. Obviously, you'll have an energy engineer there, so they'll be evaluating, how are your buildings operating now? Clearly, you guys have done a really good job because we did do a benchmark, and you are very energy efficient compared to the national average, which is incredibly impressive, and you should be applauding yourselves for doing such good work, and to the DPW for doing such good work. But I don't want that to scare you and prevent you from moving forward with this type of process, because we still could find energy savings. But back to the audit. So those energy engineers, project developers walk through your buildings, evaluate them. They'll start running energy analysis reports through our Trace 3D system, which will let them know, what your systems are actually doing, and they'll try and match those to your utility bills. And then they'll give you options. So they'll give you kind of a good, better, best scenario. So what would it look like if you replaced the like for like? What would it look like if you replaced your equipment with heat pumps? What would it look like if you replaced your equipment and did geothermal? They'll give you prices, they'll evaluate the feasibility, and they'll let you know what that would look like for your school buildings in all three scenarios. And then you would have options, and you could move forward either with financing, if you have additional funding, and we would help you along the way. Did that answer your question?
At a high level, the reason why we're bringing Train in is we've been talking about this HVAC upgrade for months now, probably close to a year, if not longer. And it has a large price tag that's associated with it based on that normal bid and spec approach. I think we have on capital right now, it's roughly $26 million. That's a big price tag. This audit will come back with more than just HVAC upgrades. It will come back with all energy upgrades that Train has found by walking through our buildings. So it might change our scope maybe about what we have to prioritize. They might come in and say, all right, you really want us to do HVAC at Coombs, but we found this immediate need in this building. And we are able to afford it and move forward with that project. Going through this RFQ process also gives us a 20-year window to work with Train, opposed to going out to bid for every single one of the projects we want to do. So we go out for the RFQ once, we have 20 years on any of those projects that they provided in the audit. And that's where where they did that phased-in approach, it's very common. Dayton Rehoboth did an upgrade as well.
They did five phases, almost $20 million at Dayton Rehoboth. They did solar panels, they did roofs, they did HVAC and energy systems, boilers,
Same with the town.
biomass boiler.
Whatever the priority is.
Kind of be smarter about it and budget ahead of time instead of just being like, let's take this massive thing on at once.
Yeah, I wanted to make sure the 20 years part got made
The
clear.
other thing I want to say too that we talked about is that audit doesn't lock us in.
No.
We can have the audit, look at it, and make our decision based on that, and we'll still be on the hook for a portion, but not the entire project.
Yeah, so if I go back to...
If you explain, Ashley, so if you come up with, say, 20 projects on our audit, including town buildings, the audit itself was in the $50,000 to $60,000 range, which you don't, it gets rolled into a project that you choose off of the
Yes.
list.
Yes.
So it seems a pretty reasonable way to go to get firm numbers for building projects within the town.
Yes, so you, through all of this, 8 steps, you've spent zero money to issue an RFQ, you spent zero money to select your ESCO, you've technically spent zero money to execute a detailed audit agreement. You just have, it's called a breakup fee of a certain, cent per square foot to enter into a detailed audit, but you haven't paid it. Oh, can I go back? Ooh, ooh, okay. You've gotten your scope of improvements, you have maybe a contract proposal, you still haven't spent any money. So it's only until you either elect not to do a single thing or you decide to move forward and it gets rolled in.
And if you decide not to do a single thing, it's a square footage, right?
Yeah, she said
It's
that.
like 10 cents a square foot, something like that. It changes. Any more questions?
Does the town manager have any questions?
Okay.
Oh.
So that
Okay.
is why we invited you to come, Rodney.
Hello.
Hello. I guess I certainly understand that this is a streamlined process.
Mhm.
I guess my question for you is whether or not your past customers would advocate this process because of a savings of time or savings of money.
I think it's both. It's definitely both. Most of our customers enter into this because they want to save time and money. I'll say they enter into the process because they want to save time. They choose Trane because they want to save money. But even, I already mentioned the Trane cost advantage when you talk about HVAC equipment, right? We manufacture it, skip the middleman, makes sense. Dighton and Rehoboth is a good example. They, in their third phase of working with Trane, they'd already done over $5 million with us, wanted us to evaluate their roofs and replacing their roofs as they were having leaky roofs. They had had a previous price from the MSBA 3 years prior, maybe, to go out and do their roofs. And it was $6 million. And 3 years after that, maybe even 5 years, I'm mixing up my years, but 5 years later, we came in at $3 million. So it's the same style. It's when you work with one provider, we work directly with a roofing contractor. We don't hire an architect to design a roof, right? We go with the manufacturer, we have them walk the site, they bond the roof, and you get a roof. But you don't have, an architect hiring an engineer who's hiring a roofer to get you a new roof. It's the same style of approach. It's streamlined in money and in time.
If I may ask another question.
Please.
Do you have like a OPM or a clerk of the works that is reporting directly to the town or to the school that would be independent of Trane, or is it just somebody from Trane reporting as far as checks and balances?
You could if you want, but the majority of our customers just work directly with Trane because it isn't, again, it's not the type of process where we do a construction project and we walk away. So you would have a dedicated Trane project manager in addition to a number of other Trane personnel on site constantly. You'd have me, you could call me and yell at me if you want, something's not going right. But at the end of the day, we're going to be there when it's done. So it's not, oh, you have to have an OPM check off and everyone's going to walk away. It's Trane will be there for up to 20 years. We've had a couple people hire OPMs, but for us, it's not a majority. Freetown Lakeville didn't, Lynn didn't. So a lot of our customers.
They're checking the energy savings, right? So they're in the mix in our buildings, making sure they're hitting their targets as well as getting the entities their energy savings to pay for the project. So, they're accessible, and I will say, working with them before, they're around the table all the time, and going through the turf project this past summer, it was the same relationship, even though we didn't have a middleman.
One more question.
Of course.
Me too, then.
And then I've got to let Dawn talk.
Do you have any similar projects, or I should say of similar scope, that the superintendent or somebody from the town could contact relative to the end result?
I would say yes. I mean, HVAC is the main component of all of our projects. So if that's a need for you, then it's almost, I mean, I would say 100% of the time we have HVAC as a component. I can think of a couple that are probably pretty close.
That the superintendent or somebody from the town could contact in terms of how things went?
Absolutely.
In addition, Rodney, sorry, when you do an RFQ and they give us all of their qualifications, they're going to give us a list of schools or towns that they've worked with before that we could contact during that process of selecting an ESCO.
Very good point. Yes. So the RFQ process is very in-depth. It's essentially a resume / interview, everything you can think of in a binder. So it'll have project information about our team. It'll have experiences. It'll have references, people you can call, reach out to. We always have people reach out to our references.
Not doubting their fault.
Oh, no, I know. Yeah, no, I mean, you should do your due diligence. It makes sense.
Thank you.
So my understanding as a novice of this process is, in essence, you're capitalizing on the potential energy savings. So, for example, if I'm paying $1,000 a month right now, you're going to guarantee going forward it's going to be $750, correct?
Mm-hmm.
However, I'm still paying you $1,000. You're making up the capital cost off of the difference between what my quote-unquote energy savings is and what I'm continuing to pay. And then there's usually an escalator clause, so that $1,000 that I'm paying now is $1,100, et cetera, et cetera. Is that correct?
So you wouldn't be paying us. I mean, it all depends on how you decide to finance. So we are impartial to how you decide to pay for a project like this.
Right, whether I'm paying whoever, but that's the piece that you're capitalizing on.
No, so we would give you a fixed firm price for, let's say, $2 million of work. All we ask is that as we complete the construction, we get $2 million at the end of it. We don't take any energy savings as part of this project. Any additional energy savings, any money that you would receive on your utility bills would be yours. If you're paying for cash, all of your energy savings would go to you. If you're doing a tax-exempt lease where you're leasing the project, you would be paying them out of your utility spend. So if, again, $1,000, all of a sudden your bill is only $750, you would keep your budget the same, and instead of giving that whole $1,000 to the utility company, you would give the $250 to Bank of America, a financier. But you wouldn't give that to Trane. If we say we have fixed firm price, our project is $2 million, our project will be $2 million. And that's another benefit, is we won't give you change order after change order for things we didn't see or didn't catch. It's a fixed firm price. It's budgetable. If we say it's going to be $2 million, it will be $2 million unless you change the scope.
So are you guaranteeing in that example the $250 of savings?
Yes.
That's what their whole
Yes.
expertise does.
Yes. And we would estimate for you, for your purposes, that it would escalate at a utility escalation of about 3%, which is standard. Sometimes these days, even higher.
How they make money is they get our business. They do our HVAC, or they do.
But it's not like a PPA. We're not sharing the savings, and you're not paying us an operational fee. We're construction fee. Yes. Yes.
And so that's the draw to this, because, for instance, you'll see a lot of regional school districts doing this because they don't necessarily have the capital that a typical municipality would have for this situation. And every year, as a regional school finance director, I would budget my utilities as the same cost. You would not see an increase or decrease to that line, even though I have energy savings. Here, it's a little unique through the entire process at Freetown Lakeville, but as we went through with Train, they gave me a proposal that said, here are all the projects, here's the cost of it, and here are your energy savings. They gave me a timeline of 20 years of my payments. So I knew how much I was gonna be paying every year for the next 20 years, and they guaranteed me my savings. If I don't hit that savings, then Train or whatever ESCO we use would have to pay us the difference. So there's also a caveat to that. So Train says you need to, 70 is sunny is their pitch, right? But you need to stay within certain ranges. So let's say I like it to be 100 degrees in my office. I'm not staying within that range. So their energy savings are not going to be met. And I have now negated that guarantee. And
Mhm.
Train would not pay because I like to have my office at 100 degrees.
But in that example, let's say their audit comes back and says, if you replace the windows, and add their equipment, you could have X percentage of savings.
Yes.
And you choose not to replace the windows.
Yes.
And that's fine because
The menu.
the menu that they give us, we can tailor to ourselves. So there's literally check boxes that you can say, okay, in our 3 schools, I want to do new boilers in 2 out of the 3. And you would check those boxes and you would see it. The workbook does all the math for us. We just have to choose what we want. We can see the total amount of the project and what the savings would be. Again, we're a little different where the savings are not going to be as drastic, but what we're talking about are incentives and rebates that have flooded the market right now. So in year 1, or depending on what the incentive is, we might get, a big reduction there and then see energy savings as we move forward.
And so like on the menu, it could say that the boiler incentives in year 1 would, result in X amount of dollars. And so we might choose to do all the boilers, as a way to exploit those incentives, spend down our ESSER money, kill all these birds with one stone. But if we go the traditional route, we have to pick a thing, we have to get a price, we have, the classic spec and build. We don't have sort of, I think, the options that we would have. And I think that, and the benefit, as I see it, is also that analysis of kind of the whole suite related to these topics. Because I think what we talked about on the call was that we could use our ESSER 2.
Depends on what the
ones that are
is.
expiring this year.
Oh, 2.
September.
Yeah,
Mhm.
use that. The school has that money on hand to fund the audit, for example. And that would be a way to, and if we end up going with Train, then that money is applied towards our project. And if we don't go with them, we've spent $50,000 to know everything that we need to know about our buildings and infrastructure related to this type of work.
And
But getting back, I guess, to the question we go to, I think Rodney asked originally, a project manager that works for the town, would basically step 1 of that be doing a RFP or an request for services to say who's out there that provides these things that you've outlined. Not that you're the exclusive.
There's a number of ESCOs, right?
There's a number of ESCOs out there that you would want to do that work to get the best proposal.
That's the RFQ process.
Okay, the
So
RFQ.
it's not a standard RFP where you go out saying, this is my scope of my project.
Right.
Give me what the price is gonna be and I'm gonna take the lowest bidder. This is, you're going out for requested qualifications for the energy service company and saying, I like this company and the work that they do. Then they're coming in and saying, this is the work that can be done in your building. in an ESCO, whether it be Train or someone else, we could say, okay, well, the roof is something that we've been talking about, and they would evaluate that and put that price on the menu of options. So there would be no OPM if not required through this process, because the ESCO leads and manages the entire project with the internal team of the town or the school district.
That's a really good summary, and I have to tell you, we are out of time. We have a lot to do tonight still, and we're very behind.
That's all okay. Thank you so much.
So I'm gonna suggest that if any members have questions, go through Ashley, and Morgan has been very kind. She's very responsive and can answer any further questions you might have. Patty, is there anything you wanted to say before we move on?
No, I just want to thank Morgan for coming. It's very informative, and I want
Thank
to thank
you.
the town manager for coming and hearing it firsthand.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Thank you to everyone. Thank you all.
Bye, Morgan.
Thank you, Morgan.
And thank you, Ashley. Okay, so, we're a little behind, but, I thought that was worth just having a bit of discussion around, because that's not gonna come back around, to us anyway. Okay, so next we have, an approval of the minutes from January 4th. Does anyone want to make a motion to approve those? We don't have the YouTube link for the recording. Sherry? Pretty short meeting, the notes aren't very long.
My only recommendation, I like the link. I'm wondering though if it should go more towards the top so that it's more, because that's the meeting itself, correct?
It is at the top, though, too. Do you see that?
Oh, okay.
The minutes is one for that particular meeting, so under December 21st, those are the minutes.
Got it.
That's cool.
Thank you, sorry.
That's actually pretty good.
Nope, thank you for
You are
clarifying
fully linked.
that. Thank you, never mind then. I make a motion to approve the minutes as presented.
And I second that.
Motion by Kathy, second by Matt. Any discussion? Okay, Brian?
Abstain.
Matt?
Yes.
Don?
Yes.
Kathy?
Yes.
I vote yes as well. All right, Patty?
Okay, we had our half-day on January 9th, and I just really want to express the gratitude that we have Khalees Warren working with the district. She is really connecting well with the teachers, and what they worked on the 9th was really having those difficult conversations and really marking a moment when you see something that is sort of a racially charged interaction and how they need to sort of attend to it. You have the enrollments on page 3 in the packet, if you have any questions on that. You also have on page 4 a personnel update. So Casey Pincenalt has taken the role of the executive administrative assistant at the middle high school, and she transferred from being a paraprofessional. And then Stephanie Ferreira Maciel is a long-term grade 5 teacher at Quashnet. And we have a couple of openings. I know we have the athletic director's report in here, so you can see the winter sports programs. As a highlighter, I would reinforce it when we go on to upcoming events, but this Friday night at the Tribal Government Center is a JV and varsity girls basketball game. I think they're playing Hull. So that's pretty exciting. I believe the boys is around February 10th. You also have Consuelo Carroll's report as our outreach director. Just so anyone who's listening out there, we do need some robotics judges for an upcoming home event. It's not, you get trained, so you shouldn't be afraid. You don't have to really know that much. You don't have to build a robot. We do have Principal O'Brien here. Do you want to hear from them? Okay, she's good. Okay, and then Coombs principal's here as well, but if you have any questions for them, they'd be more than happy to answer. And Dr. Manette was ill today, so she's not here. Under recognitions and acknowledgements, I only have one, because this is the national recognition of school board members. So I just want to say on behalf of students, staff, our families, that the five of you give of your time. It's a challenging role that you take on. It can be enjoyable work, but you have many pressures that get put upon you in the role. And I just say, to me personally and all of us, how much we appreciate the time that you give to the district. So I have a little treat that I made you.
Thank you.
I thought it was an Halloween jacket.
Oh, wow. Some treats for you to share with family or not.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Yay.
Thank you.
And then I think the only other thing is the upcoming events. I did talk about, so if you look at the page 10, tomorrow night is the program of studies at Mashpee Middle High School. If you're able to stop in there, that would be great. Most of you have children up there. And Brian, you're welcome to plan forward for your little one.
It goes fast.
It does go fast. The game is next Friday night, the 20th. And then,
That's
This Friday.
oh, sorry. Oh, yes. Gosh, that is this week. This Friday, sorry. And just to point out, on the 31st, which is Tuesday, we are doing a parent guardian workshop with Dr. Khalees Warnham. We're actually opening it up to the community where we'll provide childcare. Matt Treveri is rescheduling the home basketball game that was that night so that we should not have any competing competition for that evening.
The invite's going out?
At the high school, it's going out this week.
Okay.
Can you just say what she'll talk about? Because I don't know if everybody knows who she is.
Well, so she's been working with us. Well, this is year one of a 3-year partnership, but she's really going to help provide parents and staff. It's not going to be recorded. She won't do that, so you do have to come. But she's going to help, similar to what she's doing with staff, but helping families navigate difficult conversations and recognizing there's a self-reflection piece that's sort of a starting point with her work. But she just has a way of messaging where we're all at and what we can do to be better. And so I think she will be impactful with our families, helping us sort of start at home with helping everyone to see themselves a little bit differently. And she's got good strategies and action steps to take. So
it's just for parents. And
Well,
guardians, not,
well,
no kids.
yeah, no, it's not for kids.
She's
She is setting up with us some separate workshops, particularly for middle high school students. It may not be her. She has an associate that she highly recommends. And that date hasn't been finalized. We were aiming for February, the half day in the morning, but we'll see how that goes. But definitely in February with the students. We will provide childcare for free for families that need that. And thought about a few sort of, door prizes kind of thing.
So, can I ask a question? I think you're aware that I met with, I think his name's Henry St. Clair, the Diversity, Equity, Inclusion, and Belonging Officer for Falmouth. And they originally had a position that was town and school merged. That was a bit of a mess that didn't work out very well. They sort of reframed it, and then the district has kind of their own officer right now, and he was a former principal in that district, so he's well acquainted with the community there and everything. I realized, we're about to go into the FY24 budget, and we're always pressed if we want to add positions and things like that, so it's something that we can do. But, in light of all these discussions, I kind of think of our 3-year relationship with Dr. Warnham as kind of like it's almost like a DEIJ officer. It's like she's like a consultant for us. She doesn't sit in our buildings every day, all day, but we've got this commitment with her over several years. And is that, do you feel like the vision is that she's sort of our de facto officer in a way, or that we should be aspiring towards something like that for years from now, or we do this work first? I'm just curious.
I do feel like this is important work to do first, and I do think it's a long-term she talked about how many years it takes to sort of land where you want to land. So I think, and she offers herself up to all staff members, they can call her at any time. So I do see it as a starting point. We talk often about whether we want to move in the direction of having that position in the district, which we may land there as part of sort of our looking at everything we're looking at. And so, like, for example, one of the things last night at the music concert, there are very few children of color in that music program last night. Why is that? And so we have to, which we have a skill set within our own team to sort of dive down and look at programming. There's also great resources through our MASS Association and all the work that they've done with diversity, equity, and inclusion and belonging. And they collected some data from different superintendents who have gone outside for audits. And I do feel we have to sort of have a starting point, but I do feel that maybe down the road we would look at that position. Yeah, absolutely.
But the thing they say is it okay if I add to that?
Yeah.
Sorry, because I'm on the MASS Ready Committee, which is Racial Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion. And so we meet every month to implement MASS's plan to be more, to look at Ready, from an MASS perspective. But the guide, they came up with a guide for school districts to use to look at the work. And the first step in the guide, and every district has to start here, is the self-reflection work. And that's what the Khalees partnership is, along with some other things that we're doing. That work will lead us to, okay, we've done the work ourselves. Now we're looking, sort of doing an equity audit internally. What do we need? And that is where a decision or a recommendation would probably come out. I'm sorry to interrupt.
You weren't interrupting.
Okay.
Yeah, I think there's there have been people who have adopted that model, like, straight away out of the gate, and, like, Falmouth is a sort of a cautionary tale in the sense that they sort of blazed out, and then had to kind of take a step back and sort of rethink what they needed.
What's the function?
Yeah. So I just wanted to give you the opportunity to sort of share that publicly, because I do think we've heard from a few stakeholders who are kind of like, why aren't you doing this?
It makes a difference. So we've always found with different consultants who work with the district, the person does make a difference in terms of how well their messaging and strategies are absorbed. So she is the it person that everybody does feel connected to. Moving forward, like, I do think, like, Falmouth will most likely be more successful because it was someone from within who kind of understands. I think if you just bring in sort of this position without having done the Khalees work, because people still put up walls with Khalees and they feel connected to her, so it might not, work as we intended it to unless we've done the work first with the staff.
Okay. Yeah. So if more than 3 of us show up at that thing, we don't have any issues.
No, because you're there as parents. Yeah. I mean, you
You
don't have
can't
to
sit
sit.
next to each other
You don't have to sit in a row or anything. Spread out.
I do have a question for the superintendent. In regard to, I noticed that was included in your last week's.
Thank you for reading.
In regard to e-hall pass.
Yes.
Can you elaborate in regard to what that is, what that's being used for, how parents and students should think about that particular tool?
So it was being rolled out today, and then sort of the idea is to be fully operational by, I think it was after the February break, to assess. It came to us actually from one of the teachers at the high school who had seen it in action elsewhere. And then we sort of sent it to Susie Brooks to do her evaluation of it as a tool. So it allows everyone from their device. Right now, when someone needs to, go somewhere from a classroom, they generally get a pass. It's a handwritten thing. There's no other pieces to it. So you go and you come back and you sign yourself in. The teacher has to give permission. This is all done a little bit more seamlessly. So every student they have like a little user number or something. They will have it in their drop-down Mashpee Central on their Chromebooks. So if you're sitting in class, you decide you need to use the bathroom, you do this form, the teacher has access, she can approve it. And yes, she does have to look at something, but they also have a global perspective of the school at that time. So you kind of know where every kid is at every time. And if they're going to the nurse, there's there's that piece. Or if you're making, or you want to make an appointment to go see a certain teacher because you have a question or you need help, that it's a much better tracking system. You can also regulate bathrooms in the sense of which bathroom a kid's supposed to be at, and then when the different teachers have duties where they walk the halls, they will have a device they could easily be checking. So it's really a safety measure as well as sort of an accountability piece.
What devices access those? I think that I heard a few people questioning, you know, if the student doesn't have a phone or doesn't have a mobile device, is it accessible through their Chromebooks or?
Oh, it's all on everybody's
Yes,
Chromebook. It's not phone reliant, it's Chromebook reliant, and you don't, rarely do you see a kid need to use the bathroom and take their Chromebook.
They're not so
they don't
okay,
need to,
okay.
right?
Yeah, because that's I think the piece that needs to maybe be clarified a little too, because I think there might be a little misconception in the public of that it's a phone app versus they're sitting at their desk, they put it into their computer, and then they come back and check back in. That's, I'm assuming, what the process is.
And there's a video that Mrs. Brooks made that everyone's watching in homeroom, all the students, that will explain how to, which we could probably also share with families in the Friday.
Yeah.
In Dawn's reading materials on Friday.
I read it too.
I know, we all do.
I think that would be wise to share that so that parents have a better understanding that it's not kids walking around with a phone that's getting scanned by people in hallways.
Yeah, no,
And
it's
I
not
guess
scanned.
the other part of the question is, so who's using that information? So what privacy guarantees or guards are in place? Maybe it takes me forever to go to the bathroom nowadays. Is that shared?
So it meets the data privacy requirements under the Massachusetts Protection for Children. Susie Brooks is actually certified in student data privacy. We sent her for training for that. And then in terms of who is looking, like, are you gonna get in trouble if you're in the bathroom for 10 minutes? No, that's the beginning of perhaps a conversation. If it's every day during culinary, I am in the bathroom for 42 minutes, we're gonna have a conversation.
Or in every period.
Who's looking at
It could be the teachers can only see their kids, and then the counselors can see all of the kids, and the administrators. It depends on the permissions we give, but it doesn't know what, like, if you don't have a student in your class, then you wouldn't be able to see anything of theirs. Like Power School.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I think that information would be helpful to get out sooner versus later.
We can do that.
Madam Chair, I just have a quick question. I appreciate the upcoming events and also highlighting the ones that the school committee should attend because they align with our goals. I just had a question about the Quashnet School Kindness Assembly. Do we know what time that would be, or I can get an email afterwards? But that looks like
Is it different for each grade level?
We have two assemblies, one at 1:30 for 5th and 6th grade, and 2:30 for 3rd and 4th grade. And that's on the 25th.
Can I will just make the school committee aware of one thing, is that when the project was done in the Quashnet Gymnasium this summer, a subcontractor of whoever got it was responsible for removing the bleachers and putting them back in. And I know I came by during the process and they were all out in the front hallway with nuts and bolts and like no organization to the dismemberment of the bleachers. Then they put them back in. Well, they know they don't pass inspection right now and they're not usable. And so DPW is working on that, but that does present some challenges because next week were some music concerts here, and then any type of an assembly, that is the place they use them. So again, Catherine is working on that, but it's just sort of infuriating.
So people can't sit on.
No, they can't use them. The inspector came and will not let us use them.
There are several of the seats that are pull out of their booths, they're not attached. We did know this, and the inspection was last week.
Wait to
They're
hear how much you
disappointing.
sue them for.
They were subcontractor through the
can just see how that posting went out, like, come to say, take down some bleachers and then come back in 2 months and put them back in. You could do it.
Location of the assembly is
Unknown at this time.
I used to maintenance and
God
like,
bless you.
I can take some of the parties, let's put it in like a bag that specifically gets.
Yeah, you would tape it, you would label,
Yeah. I
loose.
can't imagine. Oh.
It's like,
Oh, Matt Hanscom too?
yeah, why would you not do it that way? Yes.
Sharpies.
This
So,
was the hubcap with the bolts flying,
Yes.
is what I'm picturing right now.
I picture like a carnival ride that they don't put back together.
Or the junk drawer with all different kinds, yeah.
All right, thank you, Superintendent DeBoer. Now we have, Ashley, anything from you for the?
Updated FY 23 budget reports are in the packet. I didn't receive any questions before the meeting. Does anyone have any?
Doesn't look like it. Thank you very much. So now we're gonna move on to the FY 24, budget discussion and vote. And I think this is page 14 in your packet is where that starts. Is it you, Patty? Can I do this?
I can do this.
Okay.
Do you want me to talk about page 14?
Yes.
Okay, so you did receive this memo, I believe, prior to the meeting, but what I tried to capture was as you recall, on January 4th, I presented my recommended FY24 budget publicly. We did not receive any questions at that time, or have I since. But anyway, the top part of this memo to you as school committee members shows what I presented on January 4th. So it shows my recommended budget less our planned school choice offset, the revision to that, the adjusted amount, and then our CIP requested items of 165. So my bottom line appropriation request to the town of Mashpee was $24,404,179. What you see below on this is a reflection of two changes that took place after the January 4th meeting, and that was in conversation with the town manager, and also a revised quote. So the two messages from the town manager is the 165 that we have in our operating budget for capital, he would like to see removed, which we plan to remove anyway because it will be approved hopefully in CIP. The other piece from him was if we could reduce our budget by an additional 50,000, then the bottom line that we would be requesting, which is shown there as the 24,354,179, is what he would fully support moving forward through the process. The other piece you should note is that the included in the $165,000 CIP request was a $90,000 amount for the MMHS public address and bell system upgrade. That has since come in at a $30,000 amount. So when we go to CIP, which is coming up, we present on the 30th at 2. Our actual request, minus the kitchen piece, will be $105,000. But that's an in and an out in our total budget based on the way we present it. So that piece is for your information. It doesn't impact really anything because that will hopefully be funded through the CIP. So we're keeping the same planned school choice offset and the 105 in capital, which we've adjusted in that second chart. So what my request is for your approval is an appropriation from the town of Mashpee of $24,354,179. And then also at the bottom of that chart, it just shows the funding that we have accumulated to put forward towards a building project. Hopefully if we went with the presentation this evening, through the audit, we would have a better idea. I do not think currently in CIP, like Ashley said, the big HVAC project is 26 million, which I think is alarming and based on, I don't know what.
It is based on design work that was done. We had an engineer come in, but again, it's that
Ashley, so if we, so under this new number, I noticed that the narrative hasn't been updated.
Well, because that's still, that's,
Yeah.
that has to
But-
wait for tonight.
But what would the total, would we be, under 4%? Basically the two we should have got last year, the two this year. Okay, so this, and then where is the, 50K cut coming out?
So we're going to be reducing the salary line for FY24. Currently, we have money set aside for Genius.
No, Camp Falcon.
Is that what?
Discovery
That's the old thing, but it's
Yes.
Falcon Discovery Camp.
Okay,
That's what it's called.
the proper title, but it's under Camp Falcon. We have money set aside for that. In review of our ESSER funding, we can pay for one more year of this program out of the ESSER 2 funding. So we are going to hold off on including that in the budget for 2020.
Yeah, it's a little kicking the can down the road a little bit, but it allows us to achieve the savings that you wanted to see, without cutting into our plans for ELL or float nurse, et cetera.
And we also won't be providing transportation for Discovery Camp, which we had been doing through ESSER funding previously. So that's another cut.
So everything else remains unchanged. Are there any questions by the committee?
I don't really have any questions, more so just making sure that we're all aware of when, this will go to, the FinCom. I know we have a liaison and Ashley usually attends, but we could just keep that on our radar for the rest of us when it goes to.
Oh, absolutely. We would appreciate your
Yes,
attending
please.
that FinCom.
Process this time, yeah.
When do we usually find that out?
We haven't been,
It's always, yeah,
Was
it's
in
usually
March.
Marchish, but I don't know how early they tell us. I can't remember.
I believe the town manager presents the budget the first week of February-ish. is normally when he
Yeah.
presents it.
Is that when we go to?
That's his presentation to the board, so he will, like, we present to him, he presents to
Oh,
the
okay.
board. And that's, Patty and I attended last year.
Right. And then FinCom is in March usually.
but unlike last year where, although nothing is ever set in stone, but I will say on multiple occasions, including today, he further guaranteed that this is the bottom line that he is including and will promote in the budget, so, which is good. I was surprised last year.
Okay, and then we also noted on the agenda that we have, that Patty mentioned, the CIP for our requests, is sort of that, so that 105 would be on the 30th.
Mhm.
But then any additional DPW related requests is the next day at 2.
And now she goes to.
So
She's
the
already
one
there. She
question that I struggle with, or the one item that I struggle with, is, in regard to special education. And Ashley, do you want to explain what you're doing with special education? Because you're, as I understand, we're aware of potential one-time situation. So you want to explain it to the committee?
We just want to be careful about confidentiality in talking about cases. Putting that out there.
So, as you know, the budget process, we submit our budget to the town very early. This year we had to submit on September 30th. Things have happened since September 30th. As you know, special education, especially out of district moving, are unknown. We never know if we're going to get a new move-in. We don't know if we're going to lose a student who's moving out throughout the course of the year. So, since our submittal of the budget in September, we've had changes to our out-of-district projected costs for FY24. line item that is never certain. In prior years, I've been more confident in our number going into the budget process. I'm a little less confident this year because there have been significant changes since I submitted the budget, but I do believe we have funding in the FY23 budget that could offset the cost for FY24, and we would not necessarily need to go back to the town at this time to request more funding.
I think that's a good explanation of what's going on. And as you point out, I do not like that. I think it's a shell game. It does put the district at risk if something does happen between now and the end of FY23, that those funds don't exist. But as we're all aware, there is an opportunity to go back to the town in October if something unforeseen was to happen. So, from my viewpoint, you're giving, in one hand, you're giving the money back to the town and you're asking for it in the relative budget year in which it would be spent and services provided. The other is you're taking advantage of really an accounting loophole to prepay. You like that one, don't you?
I did not like that one.
Yeah. A loophole to be able, a loophole which is legal to do.
A legal option to prepay is one of the areas we can prepay. It is also a decision of the school committee to prepay. The town, as though we're in conversation with them, doesn't have the right to say yes or no to that. However, we want to be working collaboratively together, and therefore, I wasn't here before when the prepayments were happening. In my previous districts, we have done that. So when I did come here, my first question was, so what do we do for prepayments here for special education? And I was told that doesn't happen. In my last 2 years here in the district, I have not asked to prepay anything. I do think that this is an option for going into FY24. Again, it's a legal option. It's one of the things that we can prepay. We can't do it in any other area. I think what else? There are other, we're going to be doing circuit breaker again this year. We try to claim every year. Again, I've budgeted a $300,000 offset. I'm hoping that we receive a little bit more money on that, and I know that there's a push by the state, by the school committees and superintendent associations to get more in that reimbursement. But none of that is guaranteed. What I do have right now as an option is the money left over in the out of district tuition line that I can prepay. That's a no for me right now.
So, are you proposing an edit to the budget?
No, I'm not. I'm just wanting to make sure everyone is aware.
That's fine. I'm just trying to move us along.
And I would like to add, just as part of this conversation, that it would be my intent as we get closer to the closure of FY23 that we are working collaboratively with the town specific to this topic.
So if they say it's a no-go, it's a no-go, then we have to go and come up with a different strategy.
Well, you do have the say, but I feel like we generally have been able and in a position to turn back funds to the town. And at that point, we will sort of know where we're at. And so I think if everybody knows the pieces of the puzzle, there would be a clarity and understanding.
As long as everyone understands what the situation is.
Any other questions about the budget?
I'm gonna make a motion then, if that's okay, Madam Chair, to approve the revised FY24 budget of $24,354,179 as presented by Superintendent DeBoer.
Do you have a second?
Second.
Okay, motion by Kathy, a second by Brian.
I just wanted to ask a question in regards to the motion, because that number is the requested appropriation.
Sorry, yes.
from the
That is
town
correct.
versus what the budget is.
I'm sorry, let
Okay.
me amend that.
Okay.
My apologies. Looking at
No
that
worries.
bottom line. So yes, the revised budget, the revised budget amount would be $25,195,274. Or am I still looking at the wrong line here?
No, you're correct. I'm trying to remember past years when I thought there was reference to like the school choice offset or maybe not, or I think getting at
No, I
the,
don't think so.
okay.
I think we just do the bottom line, which is the top line.
the bottom line, which is the top line?
I'm sorry.
Or,
Yes, the bottom line is the
or is
top
it the
line.
amount that you're going to go to the town for?
I thought it was the amount we go to the town for, which is the first number I read.
Got the overall budget?
That's what we're asking the town to appropriate, is it not?
No.
It's the appropriation.
Yeah, it's the appropriation request.
Let's let,
Oh, sorry.
I believe it's the appropriation request, that,
Which is the,
the 24,354.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, yes.
Yeah, and I don't know if you had appropriation in your wording.
I did not.
That's
I had the
okay.
number right, but I did not say.
Yeah,
the
no,
number.
that, okay.
All right, so,
I know, I was.
okay. Let me try this from the beginning. I make a motion to approve the total requested appropriation from the town of Mashpee for the FY24 budget of $24,354,179.
And Brian, you want a second? Brian.
I went to this.
Any further discussion on the budget? All right. So we have you vote.
Yes.
Matt,
Yes.
John,
Yes.
Kathy?
Yes.
I vote yes as well.
Thank you.
So budget is approved, or the request. So let's see, we have a bit of additional business to attend to. I'll try to move through this swiftly using Ashley's last comment as a lead-in for this next item. There is legislation being considered in the State House that will increase the reimbursement formula for circuit breaker. I'd like to entertain a motion to authorize me to draft a letter. You guys can do it like we do all letters, so you'll each have a chance to read it and provide any edits through Patty, so we don't violate open meeting law, but I'll basically gonna be requesting, which is on here, and it's gonna go to our state senator and our state representative. And I have spoken to Rodney about it to see if perhaps the select board wants to join with us, give it a little more heft. You may have also received an email on that through MASC, because Jason Frazier is from, I think it's Clinton, or Silverwood, is trying to just alert school committees to this effort and asking us to sort of voice our support.
So if the motion be, just for the chair to write and send a letter on behalf of the committee to our legislators advocating for the circuit breaker, or do you want all that included?
I think we can just leave it at that.
Okay.
Count that as a motion, I can second it.
Okay, motion by Brian, and a second by Matt. Any discussion on that? So we would try to probably get that out, I think, next week or something. Let's get all this budget stuff handled first. Brian, how do you vote?
Yes.
Matt?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
And Kathy?
Yes.
All right. Thank you, guys. The next item is, you have a little handout, from.
You didn't vote on that last one. You just stopped it and you didn't log your own vote. for
Oh,
the-
I thought I said yes.
No, you didn't.
I did, I vote yes.
Sorry.
Okay.
So you have a handout, which I did share, I believe I shared it on the weekend, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
But I shared it electronically because there are some links in here that would allow you to look. But it's just a recap. I believe in April, I'll be presenting out sort of the final progress on my goals for this year. The strategic plan is in there with what the initiatives are we're focused on this year. The district improvement plan basically has initiatives that are tied to the strategic plan. So as of today, I've given you evidence or steps that we've taken for each of those areas. And that's the first 2-page of collection of information for each of the steps. Then there is the student learning goal, which is tied to what many of the teachers chose. They didn't have to choose it, but we do work well when we're sort of all on the same page. And some of the action steps related to there and where we're at with that. And I will say we work collaboratively as a leadership team on many of the action steps that are here. And then on the last page is the professional practice goal, which again, most of our team and educators have chosen. And there are action steps related to that one and what we have done so far.
Your superintendent student advisory council,
Yes.
remind me who's on that?
So we have 2 students, right now and it isn't question, it's grades 7 through 12. We have 2 students from each grade level plus 1 additional senior. And so we meet monthly with them. It's a good amount of time. It's over an hour. We do lunch. We're meeting next Monday is the 3rd meeting. They would like broccoli and
pasta Alfredo.
that's what they wanted. Last month when we met, most of the whole conversation strayed from the agenda, and it was all related to the incident at the high school and getting their input and suggestions. This Monday, they will be looking at the survey questions that are for the students and giving us any final edits with that. But it's really a great group of students, and they give us some insights on other things as well. So
It's an eclectic group, so they were handpicked this year
That's what I was gonna
by
ask.
us to meet a variety of criteria to ensure that we had very strong
balanced mix.
representation of what Mashpee Public Schools is. And that is the best part of the group, I would say, because they are amazing kids who crack me up.
They are.
And sometimes really can't stay focused on what we're talking about, and that's okay too. But it's we've developed norms, Mrs.
we
Moore
do.
could talk about it more, but it's the best part of my job, I would say, meeting with these student leaders.
Yeah, I've always wanted to do it. It only took me about 6 or 7 years. It's always been on my list, but
And will you continue that once our advisory committee is in place? And these are gonna be different people?
Yeah, because hers are handpicked and the advisory
Like-
committee's elected.
and they'll
I guess,
give us.
but if one of those handpicked people were elected, it would be the same person.
It could be
We
similar.
could talk about it. I think the purpose of this group is different
Yes,
from the
that too.
purpose of yours. In other words, there's some lots of operational stuff that we talk about with these kids that you wouldn't necessarily in yours. They're advising you. I think if you go with what the purpose of it is in the law that you've discussed, it's a different focus.
Like I would imagine we'll have a conversation about the E-Hall pass on Monday. But I just have to get them to look at my questions first.
Okay,
It's a good group.
all right, thank you for that. Do you have a handout on the
Yes.
self-evaluation?
I think it's this page here, no?
No, no, it was it's a chart that gets shared electronically. I think I reshared it for anyone to post. I've seen different people post in it.
Yeah.
So I will reshare it with you just as a reminder after tonight's meeting, if you want to post anything that you've done that we need to sort of capture.
Okay, I
Yeah.
just was going by the agenda.
No,
It's a
this
handout.
is the handout.
Oh.
This handout, this with our goals.
Oh,
Oh,
This handout. It was not part of the packet. It was one of the extra
oh, it was a handout.
supplemental.
Oh, okay.
But it's just to remind us, I think, of what our goals are, and it has the link at the bottom.
okay.
Oh, yeah, and the link's at the bottom, thank you.
Okay, family opinion survey.
And I want to direct you to the one that Sherry added to your place, which has the handwritten date of the 18th above, not the one in the packet. It reflects a few additional edits from the admin team as well. So what you're looking at are all of the questions from last year's survey. The red indicates some edits or additional questions for 2023, and then there are some questions to remove. And then you can tell by the boxes, the actual data from last year I took out of this, but who answers the question. So if it's shaded in, it means the students don't have to do that one. But anyway, adding 2 questions for next year for parents and students. One is around PowerSchool. I use PowerSchool to access my students or my grades and or schedule, and trying to figure out what the scaling would be, whether it would be, every day. We haven't quite figured out what the scale is going to look like. And as a note, there is a packet page 30, which sort of shows the timeline of the survey process. So next Monday evening, we have a focus group of parents. So that we still haven't figured out the scale yet on that question. We also want to add a question. We have it worded this way so far: systems are in place that ensure all students can access programs and opportunities, and we would give examples of what we're talking about for clarity. And the student version would be obviously I. We are recommending removing the 2 questions currently labeled as 1920. Those are related to the block schedule at MMHS. We're adding red text to number 22, that a student would say, when concerned about my social emotional well-being or that of a friend, I am comfortable reaching out to trusted adults in my school. On the back, we currently had it worded as I frequently witness other students using inappropriate language and or displaying inappropriate behavior. Frequently is a word open to interpretation, so we're wondering about a scale about that would capture a little bit more. 35, we were going to remove, I often worry about violence at my child's school, and a student version, because 26, my child feels safe. So I feel like if you feel safe, maybe they're not the same. I don't know. We kind of felt that they were. If you're concerned about violence, you're not going to feel safe. But maybe, I don't know how you could feel safe and worry about violence at the same time. For 38, just changing the word, Mashpee Public Schools has a climate versus promotes a climate. And then down at the bottom, we included parent responses and student responses in terms of percentage participation from last year. And then the total number of questions from 2022 and the total number of questions in 2023. And so when the parents look at this, and maybe the students will get something like this, but we will also have it in the format of the Google form, how it goes out. And I know when on this schedule, I believe at the February meeting, let me find where that is. 2/8. You're going to, okay, the 2023 final survey review by school committee is on the 8th of February. That will look, I'll have it looking like it would look like if you were taking it, which is how we did it last year. You have the master list of questions, but just for a feel of what the survey looks like.
So the students will not be required to give their name?
Well, their emails, they have to answer through their school email, which is their whole name. Last year, I will say, I want it to be a little bit more, no one's required to take the survey, but I wanted it to be sort of more facilitated so that they felt there was time to do it. I don't know if a homeroom block is enough time for students. It might be, we have to talk about that in terms
We
of.
can talk about extending homeroom for a day.
Yeah, and then when the 5th and 6th grade did it down here, there was a little glitch initially, but, I would almost expect 5th and 6th grade to be pretty much all participating, but it got a little glitchy last year, so, because of some technical difficulties that got fixed.
I still think you'd get another 10% if you added another response mode for families. I talked to Mr. Maroney about that, the text option, and the problem is the families have to opt in to School Messenger. Did we talk about this? I couldn't remember.
We didn't. I mean, we have to have that. We basically have to get that approval at the beginning of the year. It's kind of, it would be weird to try to get that.
But they also have to go in themselves, families, and opt into it through School Messenger or, so that's, he said it's totally doable. It's just, you're not going to reach everybody. but we are looking at taking school, I don't know that we'll use School Messenger forever, and that Power School might take over what we use School Messenger for at some point, and then it would be an easier text ability, but I didn't follow up with you all on that, so I'm sorry. I had talked to him when we first discussed this.
Yeah, I still think, I mean, we have sort of past precedent to say that we've got a 10 to 15% response from paper surveys. That just, I think you would still get those.
Oh, that's what you were talking
10%.
about, sorry.
Yeah. But I understand it's, I understand that there's a trade-off there. And I really like the addition of the Power School questions. It's
Yeah,
very
maybe you have a
interesting.
suggestion of how you want the
Uh,
scale.
yeah, I guess it would be good if, so you're, I guess when I look at that, my question is, how many times, you could ask them to identify how many times a week, and you could have those be the response options.
Okay.
I'm gonna say daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly,
Never.
never.
Because if
Like,
you,
but yeah,
something that gets at that temporal difference.
Mhm.
I mean, I don't know that you need to know how many times a day, but if you know
No.
they're going on daily, that's gonna be more helpful than.
But part of what I know that kids look frequently, and it's a stressor when things are not entered in a timely way. So this does help support something else we're including in something else in terms of an expectation we have for our teachers.
Can you do one scale for parents and one scale for kids, or is that gonna skew everything?
No,
No,
they're
I feel like,
different
I feel like the
different-
kids,
they're
yeah,
different.
because the kids, I mean, I know mine looks multiple times a day at it, so.
Yeah, they could be different.
Yeah.
And I mean, well, I don't know how
No,
often
I think,
parents
I
look,
mean,
but
and I'm sure that the teachers want to know, that 70% of students are checking Power School once a day. If that, I'm just making that up, but I think if you knew that, you might realize how the kind of impact that you're having on students.
so I think if we ask on Monday, our council, that group, like how often, we could get a pretty good scale that might really be applicable to students, and then maybe from the focus group of parents, or you can provide me feedback as well as how often you look at your child's Power School.
Yeah, at the focus group.
Yeah.
But I like the idea of having those bookends of daily and never,
Yeah, yeah.
because that's,
Yeah.
it's what's in between that I'm not sure I know the answer to. You all have any, thoughts about the survey or anything? So we're gonna do this after February break, and then,
Yes, we have always sent it the Monday after the break. It usually stays open for 2 weeks. We have sent reminders, we can look at sort of who got the first batch and that piece, but, yeah.
well, this, the texting thing is, I mean, emails are becoming like the junk mailboxes of 30 years ago. I mean,
It's a sign it's a sign for me to leave soon. If the emails are answered, oh my God,
no.
I cannot keep up with all.
Just text us.
I do
Put a
text
snap
all of you, I
out.
just don't
Maybe
text all the
in future
parents.
it could become- Because we have the tech team, I don't know if it's something where because there's QR codes, but we want to make it inclusive and not just people that have the ability to use a phone, but maybe it could become something that
We
during
could
a
do,
room, they'll be the second they get to homeroom, they do their check-in, and there could be a pop-up, click here to do the survey or something like that.
yeah, Susie does do that on their Chromebooks with the pop-ups.
Yes.
Um,
So
Students aren't the problem.
yes, I know, but parents are, but maybe a QR code at events and hey, do the survey. So
Yeah.
for that whole 2-week period.
Mhm.
Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah, we could get that out there like that.
So
Be an English
Yeah.
assignment for get your parents to fill out the
Yeah.
survey.
Oh yeah.
Get 5 points on your test.
And the only other thing I would add, and I know some of this question count, everything's on there, right? But you have to consider that there are families in this district that are gonna fill out 100 questions. So
Right.
This
Right.
number is still creeping up. We really need to get it back down to
30.
25 to 30 range. As a suggestion.
No, I know, I agree, it's just, we look at every question and we have such a hard time giving them up.
Oh my gosh, the amount of time we spend.
Well, I
considering
really,
these, and
it's
it's true. You
It's, yeah.
It's important information to have.
yeah. but I don't have 4 kids. in the school.
Me either. So.
Yeah.
But, you know,
Oh, yeah,
Falmouth,
yeah.
I had a meeting with, that's what that meeting with Falmouth
Yeah.
was about, because they want to consider a survey like ours for climate, related to their diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging goals. So they're looking at something, and they were really intrigued by this idea of like baselining your goals and sort of, you know, using a survey to sort of measure progress, which was what I think we've been doing, so. So many years we've done it.
I know. Part of your legacy.
Okay, so that's that. I don't
Oh,
actually-
Ashley?
So I was just looking at the memo that we sent to Rodney last year.
Yes.
We do articulate our offsets. I think our, motion's right, but do you want to amend it just to state the superintendent's budget, the offsets, just so you don't have to do it again?
Sure. Might as well. Be safe than sorry, we're here. Nope, thank you for checking.
Nicole's gonna sign off on it.
Let me know when you're ready, Sherry. Okay, so the motion will be to approve the total requested, hold on, sorry, before I do that. So it starts with the top line, and I read, just read all of the lines.
Yeah, I would say do the top line, say the offset of school choice, offset of CIP
capital.
request, and then your total appropriation.
Okay, thank you.
Request appropriation.
Okay, so the motion, I make a motion to approve the superintendent's recommended budget of $25,195,274, less school choice offset of $736,095, less the revised requested capital improvement program items of $105,000, for a total requested appropriation from the town of Mashpee of $24,354,179.
I'll second. I like the remix.
So do we need to vote again? Just
Yeah.
we
Any
do.
further discussion? All right, let's vote on that one more time. Brian?
Yes.
Matt?
Yes.
Don? Kathy?
Yes.
I vote yes as well. Just
Thank
for
you,
good
Ashley.
measure.
I just don't wanna
No,
have
that's.
to ask.
I
Nope,
had
thank you.
memories of something like that.
I don't have any other items.
That's
Is there
the
anything from anybody else?
DC trip?
No new
This was
business.
a handout?
Yeah.
That's just the agenda that Dawn had asked for, the agenda of the 10th grade trip to DC no, not 10th grade, senior trip to DC in October of their senior year, which is October of '23.
Oh, yeah, you guys approved this last.
You approved the trip, you just wanted to know what they would
Just
be
wanted
doing.
to make sure there wasn't
Yes, there's a little typo at the top there. Ignore that.
All right, then,